Hello, hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks. I'm your host, Roberta, and today we're honored to have with us Christina Kao, co-founder and co-CEO of Mini Macaron. Launched in 2015 with their hero product, the first 15-minute affordable gel manicure designed for use at home and on the go. With its unique macaron LED lamp and salon quality 3-in-1 gel polish, it's perfect for our entrepreneur listeners that are on the go, building businesses, looking to stay cute while changing the world. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much for having me, Roberta. I'm looking forward to talking to you today.
I am too. I'm so excited to learn about you and your brand, of course. So let's get into it. So really just want to start off. I would love to know of what was your life like before kind of even conceptualizing Le Mini Macaron?
So I actually come from an advertising and marketing background. I went to school in New York at NYU and then worked there for probably 5 years in the advertising agency world. So very creative. I was an account management person. So worked with creatives, but on the client side. And then I actually moved to Shanghai when I was 28 and then moved into event marketing. So it was a lot of experience marketing, creating for luxury brands and consumer brands unique experiences that were very memorable. So that was super helpful for me to just think about what consumers go through in a journey when they interact with brands. So my background was mostly advertising, creative, marketing, client work, working with brands like luxury brands from Chanel and Rolex to tech brands like Intel. I worked on the Wall Street Journal at one point. So it really ran the gamut.
Oh, amazing. So with that, then it sounds like you were, of course, on this trajectory on the side of marketing. What even had you thinking about starting a brand?
So this was back in about 2011, 12 time period. And I'd been doing marketing, but I felt like, okay, I've been in the agency world for a while. There weren't a lot of people starting businesses at that time. I mean, this is probably like 12, 14 years ago. Not a lot of people starting businesses. It wasn't really a thing that you naturally would go do. But I wasn't excited about interviewing for more marketing roles because I was interviewing. I was looking for the next thing, but I wasn't excited about it. And I did a stint working for a celebrity chef when I was living in Shanghai because I thought I wanted to own a restaurant or own a nightclub. So I worked with a famous chef for a while in his restaurant group, and that taught me something really different. And in this time, I realized I didn't want to go into that. And I met Francois, who's my business partner, and he became my boyfriend. So we started dating. I don't know if you know this story, that I started the business with my ex, and we literally dated for 6 months and then just started working together. But the intent wasn't to build a brand. The intent was, let's make some products. Let's design some, we were doing nail products. Let's design some cute nail art kits. We can go find, some places to sell them, like go to exhibitions and find buyers in different countries. So back in 2013, we were living in Shanghai, and he's actually the one that comes from beauty. So everyone thinks that I'm the one coming from the beauty industry. Not true. He came from purchasing and supply chain, and he knew the manufacturers and where to buy these products in China. I was really the marketing and creative side, and then I started doing sales, and then just joining forces to really initially just make some products, design some stuff, get some people to produce it for us. It wasn't this grand idea of having a brand and, we'd be in these retailers. It wasn't that back in the day.
So I guess my first question is, why the nail care? Why was that something that you thought of as opportunity?
So 2 reasons. One is just he actually was coming from that category. So he was working for a French wholesale beauty brand, doing a lot of their product development, purchasing, and actually a big part of what they did was nail. So he was a nail expert. He still is a nail expert. It's hilarious. Like, he knows very detailed information about like nail drills and these tools that nail technicians use. So he was an expert, with all this knowledge about the category. And then from the consumer side, funnily enough, because I was working marketing, I was always getting my manicures done at salons. So I was going in like every 2 to 3 weeks to get my gel manicures done because those were the ones that last, and, they were more expensive, but I liked to have it. It was very, very shiny, very long lasting. Right. And so I was in the cycle of constantly going to get my manicures done, and felt like Actually, it wasn't so much the cost at the time that, it was a little bit expensive, but it was more the time it took because I didn't like to have to go in. So you have to go in, you're waiting there. I'm not like one of those people who likes the service. Like, I just feel like the whole thing takes time. And then you have your manicure, you're wearing it for 2 to 4 weeks. That's amazing and it lasts. But then when you have to remove it, I'd have to go in and book the removal. And then you're in the cycle again of like,
Yes.
they hook you in to book the next
Me
manicure,
too.
right? So it's this virtuous cycle. So there was sort of like the two sides to it. Like, me as a consumer wasn't liking, like, I love the results of like a gorgeous glossy mani that I could look really polished when I was out doing my events and my client activities. But I hated kind of like getting caught into the booking and the rebooking of the appointments. And then on the other side, him really having the connections within nail to know, how do we produce products? Where do we manufacture? What is MOQ? How do you do logistics, right? All of those important things.
That's funny. I love manicure, going in and coming out, being able to have beautiful nails for weeks and weeks, but I'm the same way. The
Hmm.
whole like idea of going, sitting, waiting for you to be
Yeah.
called, sitting down, not being able to do anything for a
Right.
good,
Right.
45 minutes. So having something that saves time, but you can still get that look, I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed your nails
Oh
when
yeah.
we started the call. You have your nails done.
I
Looks really
do.
good.
Yeah. Okay. So then you kind of think about nail care as opportunity with your partner kind of having the experience and then you kind of having the challenges of getting your nails done, and the time that it acquires. So what were kind of first steps once you determined that you wanted to kind of start this kind of exploration? I won't say brand yet, since you didn't think of it as a brand,
Right.
but like the exploration into kind of creating something.
Yeah. So this was probably around 2012, 2013. It was an interesting period because nail as a category was changing and how people were starting to get into nail art. Like, this was the first period of time when you were seeing like animal print nail art really come out in media and on websites and this kind of thing and magazines, right? So we were seeing like initial nail art, which didn't really exist before that. And also at this time, gel polish and doing gel manicures at home started to become a thing. It was emerging. You had some products that were available that were like the big sets. So like the big lamp, you have your like base coat, color top coat, your cleanser, all these products. So you had these big kits. They were probably like $70, $80 for the full set, but they were pretty intimidating because you had many steps, many bottles, really designed for people who already knew what gel was and would be willing to pay that amount of money to have the items at home. And so that was out there. So we were seeing that. You were seeing consumer interest wanting to kind of do stuff at home, but you didn't have that entry point, that entry level type of product for someone who wanted to get into it, but like really had no idea. Like, I felt like the big sets were designed for people who maybe had already gone to the salon for many years and, who kind of somehow knew how to do it or were really willing to learn how to do it. But we wanted to target a consumer who wanted to dabble in it, but didn't want this like full commitment, wanted something that was really easy to get into, that could fit their lifestyle. And so the idea came about to create a one-step gel. So it's 3-in-1 formula. You've got your base color top coat just in one bottle. Very simple to use. And then a lamp, which is our mini LED lamp, the macaron, right? So I have one here. So our little LED lamp, which dries the polish, is in the shape of a macaron. We designed it this way, and it is a one-finger light. And I could talk a little bit more about this, but we designed this so that it was something with a one-step gel. When you paired that together, and this charges with a USB, like you just plug it in. It's very, very user-friendly for someone new to wanting to do this. And we launched the kits. So the kits originally were $35. So you've got your lamp, you've got the polish, really accessible. It's not going to break the bank. And then you compare it to what you're paying, for a gel manicure at the salon. I mean, I think at the time it's like maybe for $1.20 a manicure, $1.50 a manicure, and you can reuse it. You've got tools inside. You have remover wrap. So when you're ready to remove, 10 wraps for your first time. Soak off removal, just like the salon. Just like really entry point so you can get into it. And then if you want to rebuy remover wraps, more colors, we've got all that on our website and like much more. So we started out with the Mini Macaron lamp, and it was just a very innovative, different offering because you had all these big sets at these very expensive price points. The sets they were black or they were white, right? Like they were very professional looking, and ours were colorful and vibrant, and it was a macaron, so it was really cute. And my partner's French and I'm American, so we did a lot of this, like even with like copy, like franglais, right? French and English, like we would play on copy. So there was a lot of personality and flair. And so the brand launched in 2015. We actually started on Kickstarter. So, I was living in Shanghai. At that time, like how did people launch products or brands? Kickstarter was the thing. It was crowdfunding. It was a great way, like just kind of the thing everybody was doing. So we did 3 Kickstarter campaigns in the first 18 months just to get it going. And it gives you that initial audience because they have, an audience and a consumer base, and you can kind of bring those people in. And with those new customers that you then ship the products to, you can bring them over to your website. So it's very natural to launch e-commerce right after Kickstarter. So yeah, that's how we kind of started it at that time.
Well, I want to say first, it's pretty, I think, amazing in regards to you identified an area that there was opportunity to have something different and unique, whether it's the colors that kind of make it more inviting and fun, the entry price point that makes it, more accessible for people that kind of want to try it, but maybe don't really know if they can and don't really want to put a lot of money behind it. So I think that's just a good point in regards to you can find a category that is starting to exist, but you can find a creative and innovative way to break into it. So for Kickstarter, what was the initial feedback from consumers after you sent them out?
It was so interesting. So, we ran a 30-day Kickstarter during which the first 2 weeks, like it wasn't taking off. So it was a lot of 3 a.m. nights trying to get your friends, to like jump in on it. It was very stressful. And then it turned around after 2 weeks, right? It just started to pick up, and then we met the goal. I think we probably made like $35,000 in that month. So it was really good. And actually for my next Kickstarter, I set the bar lower so that we could meet the goal earlier. I think it was like 20,000. And then you can reach it and you can say, hey, we reached it. And, you then go on and try to continue to push it. But we sent out the products. It was really good. I think people were very supportive. And because of the type of platform Kickstarter is, that they know you're a new entrepreneur, the product is brand new, I would say they're pretty forgiving, which is really great for a product like ours that needs a bit of education. They're willing to dabble. They're willing to play. In our case, like we were giving tutorials. They're really interested in learning. And they're very good ambassadors because they are happy to have discovered something on this platform that they'll then go and tell their friends about. Since we did 3 Kickstarters, I started to get pretty into how to set up these campaigns. And one of the things is having these different price points and more value sets. So at one point I had, buy 5 of our gel manicure kits, get the 6th one for free. And then I was having someone getting married and she would buy it for her bridesmaids. It was really interesting because then you could see from there, hey, we make great bridal gifts or, bridesmaids gifts. And then when we started doing PR, we would tell our agency, hey, think about us for wedding season. Think about it. And then we would have travelers, flight attendants who find the product. And this is so great. I'm on the plane and I'm between cities. It's so great. I can touch it up. I like to go into the salon, but it's great. I have this. I can touch it up when I'm moving around. And that was really cool because I was like, wow, flight attendants, travel magazines, so there's different places we can market the product that weren't the traditional ways we were always thinking of. So I think Kickstarter definitely gave us great, sort of one-to-one feedback. They're like, oh, we love these types of shades. Can you develop more shades? This is really great for on the go. But then right after that was we want the full set. We want the bigger lamp. We want more of these types of products. So we then later went into developing the deluxe lamp, which is a 4-finger. And you see at the salon, right, the big lamp. But it was our maxi macaron. So the mini macaron, the maxi macaron. really cute. But it was like there's a wealth of information, right? When you go out to an audience like this, and whatever you're hearing back, you could really bring it back into your business.
Yeah, that's interesting because I would think too, okay, you're going to get information back on your product, but you're also getting
Mm-hmm.
information in regards to your customer demographic right on there
Right.
for
Right.
marketing opportunities. So after those three Kickstarters and having the success and getting money to fund the business, you said you then launched online.
So we started an e-com site for the US, but I would say, I mean, you know this, we didn't have a lot of SKUs, right? Because you need money to have many more colors and removal and accessories. So in the first year, I think we only had 5 shades. So this is kind of interesting because you launch a system and you want people to buy it's kind of like Nescafe, you buy the machine and you rebuy the capsules. That's our thing. It's like you buy the machine, but you want them to come back for a lot of shades, like top coats, many other things. So the e-com site for year one wasn't a big thing. It was sort of there. I mean, I don't even think I knew like email marketing. I mean, we were not doing like newsletters. I mean, I was not doing Facebook ads. I had no idea. It was just like the site. Not many people knew about it unless you came from the Kickstarter. And it just had these 5 shades, like 5 single shades plus some of the kits. And that was just there. But because we were living in Shanghai and we were international, we were kind of focused on like more wholesale business. And that was the influence of Francois, my business partner, because he was coming from that side of the business. Like he saw wholesale, I'm producing with factories, I need bigger volumes. It wasn't the B2C, one sale at a time. It was like, hey, if we produce with a factory, we got to go make 2,000 to 3,000 units for the MOQ. Where are we going to sell this? So he was always thinking volume. And I think in his world, it was like, we should go to like expos and have a booth and just meet distributors. So we were really coming from different viewpoints. And so for the first couple of years, we were traveling to a lot of places to just go to exhibitions. We had booths like, in Cosmoprof in Bologna. We've done a couple of things in the US and just being out there to try to be found. Like I would say this is like 2016, 17. So even digital Facebook ads, like that stuff was kind of getting going. Amazon, it was getting going, but it wasn't what it became a few years later. So it was still like, yeah, trying to meet people face to face, like buyer meetings. We've done, do you know ECRM?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done ECRM a couple times. Like we met Ulta at ECRM in like Vienna or Monte Carlo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. It was so unexpected. But, ECRM for your listeners is basically these like buyer meetings where you have like 20-minute meetings, but in one day you could have like 30 meetings. Like you're just like around the clock, back to back. And then you go to this conference for like 3 days. So you're in a hotel room with all your products and branded, signage set up, your catalogs, and the buyers rotate through. It's like speed dating. Right?
It is. It really is. Because they knock on that door and say, okay, it's over.
Right. Next. Yeah. So yeah, we were doing that like back in 2016, 17, maybe 18, we went to ECRM, we would meet, but I mean, we were doing ECRM in Europe. So we met a lot of different international retailers, we met US ones, but also European ones, and then ones from other parts of the world too.
So from there, is that how you started to get into some retail stores, and where exactly was your first retailer?
So this was about so I would say 2016, we had done the Kickstarter. We sort of had this website. We were going to meet, just clients all over the place. Sephora France actually was the first one. So we have like a partner who's in France, in Lyon in France, and he got us in front of Sephora. It was it was almost like very easy. It would not be that way today, but it was almost like very easy. Like they saw the product. It's Le Mini Macaron. They're French, so that was so cute, so fitting. They loved it. So that was like maybe October of, I want to say 2016, maybe. And we were very fortunate. We got into Sephora France for holiday, so holiday gifting, peak period of time. I think we sold like 10,000 gel manicure kits in like 8 weeks. It was insane. Yeah, like just everybody was just completely shocked. They had like maybe 350 to 400 stores in France. So, and we weren't even in all the stores. It was like maybe 200 test stores, and we just sold all this inventory. Like, honestly, really, kismet. Like, we had no idea what we were doing. There was no strategy. It was like,
I was going to say, like, what did marketing look like? How were you driving consumers into the store to buy?
Marketing was purely a Facebook group in French for France that our partner had created. And it was very like crafty, it wasn't like there was no official strategy. It was just like running contests on this Facebook page to get more people to like join the group and to, like click on stuff. And I mean, this is 2016, so I don't even know if people remember how Facebook looked back then, but it was like people used it to keep in touch with their friends. It wasn't so much like news, and all that, but you'd have these groups and like communities, we call them today, but you had this group. And so they were just like running lots of giveaways, which I think today it just wouldn't work because people are inundated with giveaways, right? But back then it was very fresh. So he was running a lot of giveaways and then people were seeing it. And because it was French and it's a macaron, so cute, and it wasn't really known. I mean, there was nothing like it out there. Very innovative, very colorful. So just really appealed to that consumer. And the 200 stores we were in, Sephora, it just sold like crazy. So we were able to get a listing in full chain the following year. So that was amazing. But not intentional, it was really not intentional, but like amazing for the business. And I think getting into Sephora was such a credibility builder for our brand, which was brand new. And, then you're going to other client meetings or exhibitions and you say, hey, I'm in Sephora.
Right.
And people are like, wow, that's amazing. So that kicked off. And then that team ran that business. So I wasn't working on the French business. Like it was being run by a team on the ground. And then I was more, just like we were making products. We were making more colors, other kits, like different versions of our hero product, making the big set, the Maxi Macaron, more removal, more nail art. So we're behind the scenes making things. The US was kind of there. We weren't like deeply focused on it. But then when we went to some of these ECRM buyer meetings, we met Ulta, we met QVC, we met some of these retailers. So in 2017, we got an opportunity to launch on Ulta.com. And then we had they have their checkout area, like the impulse minis, bins, at checkout. So there was some opportunity to put some products there. We had accessories. So it wasn't the core product. We had some accessories. And, we had no idea how to work with retail. We just thought, yeah, just get it in. Wow, like big POs. Like, how do we deliver these volumes? Like, just make sure you can order and deliver on time. And, so we were doing this. We weren't really doing marketing in the US, not at the level that I know now it needs to be done. But we sort of just I would say those early days, we were like just shipping POs. Like that was the thing. It was like POs, and doing all the logistics around POs. And then so QVC gave us an opportunity. I went on air twice at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. But the QVC audience is much older. It's probably, when I went on, they were saying it's like people in their 70s.
Oh,
and
wow.
They were trying, it's like, it was quite older at that time. And they were really trying to angle it towards and 60s and 50s, and let's try to bring in the 40s. So that was their initiative. I think they've managed to some extent to capture that younger, but younger audience. But if you're in front of 70-year-olds and you're selling a gel manicure kit, for holiday, sure, maybe for gifting, they're thinking of their grandkids, but it really wasn't the audience for us. So while QVC, I think just personally, professionally, was a great opportunity to be on air, and they train you as well. So it's like you're going through a full day training. How do you present? You've got the presenter there as well. So you have to do the whole program. But QVC is consignment. So that's also quite scary because tons of volume of products that you have 7 minutes to sell on consignment, and if you don't hit it, you're holding on to that inventory.
Right.
So I did a couple of shows. We didn't move through the inventory. So that was, it's just like, well, what do we do with this now? Because you've kind of packaged some products for them. So actually that inventory just sort of sat in our warehouse for about a year. No idea what to do with it. It was something very specific. And yeah, I would say in those years, like sort of 2017, 18, 19, well, we also had Nordstrom. We were like Holiday, and there were other like Urban Outfitters.
How did you get into Nordstrom's?
I feel like they reached out to us, and I don't, because like we have known them for quite a long time. And when we first started with Nordstrom, it was probably around like, yeah, 17, 18. I think they must have seen us on Instagram, but it was a different time. But they must have seen us, reached out. For several years, we did the holiday program, right? Like they have a buying team just looking for holiday gifting under certain price points, and it's like in and out. It's not all year round, right? And then after a few years, the beauty team contacted us. So then we were like, okay, we're listed, we're online, maybe some stores, not a lot of stores, a few stores. But then every year there would be like the holiday buy, could be all doors, so in like the gifting section. Yeah, Nordstrom's been a great partner, in all these different years. But yeah, the US was just sort of, there was no strategy. I mean, we were just doing, and then 2020 came around. And it was the year of COVID. Everybody was at home. Nail as a category took off. Like it just was, everyone was looking for nail care at home, but very specifically gel manicure and gel manicure products just peaked like unbelievable. So we were selling like hotcakes on our e-commerce site, and like all that QVC product that had been sitting there for a year in my father's warehouse because I didn't have anywhere to put it. It was like in his warehouse. Suddenly we flew through that inventory. It was crazy. We were very fortunate to even have that inventory to be able to sell it. So COVID was this like very big surprise, and we were very fortunate for the business to have that lift. The retailers, you guys always have the in on like the data, right? And like the trends and like what's going to peak. So some retailers started to come back to us, like QVC came back and they're like, hey, do you have something for like the beauty steal? We're running it. Yeah, they were like, we need 1,000 units for this April 2020. There's this like beauty steal program. There's a bit of a discount on the product, 1,000 units for the month. We sold 1,000 units in 3 days. Like They just flew through it. Yeah. So I started to hear this feedback because like retailers would start to call, and then we got a call from someone who works with Target. And they were like, hey, would you consider working with Target? So then started the process of, well, what does that look like? How do we pitch them? And it was interesting because in a retailer like Target has a broker. Usually you work with brokers because they're so complex that indie brands, it would just be not making sense to work directly. So we worked through a broker and prepared the pitch. I remember the buyer for Nail was on maternity leave. So they were like, you have some time because she's not here. Let's prepare a pitch. Let's think about what it looks like, in Target. And so we worked on that, so we launched in Target Q4 2021. So it was like, a year and a half after the pandemic had started. And the world was, the gel category, nail category was still going really strong in 21. Like we thought 2020 would be, this peak, and 21 would kind of go down a bit, but it was still really strong. And people were still, kind of not always out there. People weren't really traveling so much. So there were these, kind of indications that the business was still going quite well. And we got an opportunity for an end cap at Target in 250 stores. For launch, for holiday.
Oh, wow.
It was the perfect, it's the perfect, these elements that came together, like having an end cap so your brand has visibility, and the consumers that are flowing through immediately, they see branded, signage. Holiday, which is perfect for gifting. People are just looking to product discovery, to just find things, they want new things. They want to find things they can gift. And it was just a great moment. And one of the things, going into Target, because we'd already been in bid. So Target was end of 21. The brand launched beginning of 15. So that's what, like 6 years or so, of experience that we'd had. And I didn't mention this, but in all those years, we have been internationally doing various things. We were in Sephora Middle East, but then we came out because it didn't really work. We were in Canada in a retailer and it didn't really work. So we've definitely tried things and really learned lessons. And so when the Target opportunity came around, I was like, we are not failing this. We were very green in the early days. So by 21, it was like, okay, we've learned all of our lessons. Like, we cannot fail this. And so actually one of the really critical things that helped me was I got on a call with a founder friend She has a skincare brand, and she had actually, her timing was she had launched in Target 1 year before we were going to launch, and she'd already had several months of experience. And she was like, okay, 4 things I would have done differently. The number one thing was the marketing. She's like, there was no awareness about the brand.
Yeah.
Like, I literally just got funding and hired my CMO. So we didn't have anyone to do marketing. I actually think we're going to get discontinued because we didn't support it well enough. They also had pricing strategy issues. But, learning that experience from her and marketing being so critical, I said to our small team, I said, okay, we've got to make sure the marketing is supported. I think the learning was when you hit that shelf, you've got to be hitting the shelf running. Like,
Yes.
Come out of the gate really strong, have your marketing. People, they can't just be like, what's this? And wait weeks and weeks for someone to buy you. You need to be supporting that for the retailer and just making sure. Retailers obviously have their sales targets for you, their weekly sales targets. They may or may not share that. We've had ones who just tell us right off the bat. We've had retailers who we work with who won't give us their sales targets for whatever reason. Like, we've been through all of it. But if you can, try to ask for that to know what their expectation is of you. I'm telling you this, but
no, but it's
you,
great for
you know this. Yeah.
I do, but for the listeners, I think that's really important. I think,
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying, marketing is key. Like, once you hit those
Mm-hmm.
shelves, of course, you're going to have the opportunity for discoverability and the traffic
Mm-hmm.
that retailers have. And you can utilize as well, like, their marketing channels. But really, the onus is
Mm-hmm.
still on you in regards to how to deliver, the sales and
Mm-hmm.
drive the new consumer into the store and get them to pick up your
Mm-hmm.
product. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that, to your point, I mean, that's the most critical point or critical thing you need to plan in advance to make sure that you're successful.
Mm-hmm. I feel like now, especially with how social media has changed and Instagram, TikTok, and all these platforms, like, a lot of these indie brands have come up and have built communities, right? Like, that's actually what indie brands, if you're doing it well, you're building a community. 7 years ago, I don't think beauty brands were necessarily thinking of that. Maybe if they were ahead of the curve, they were thinking of that. But, 7, 8 years ago, you could get an opportunity in a retailer. And I used to say this, like, you could ride their coattails to success, right? Like, you capture their audience is buying your products, and that's great. But with the change in, communities and social media, and how there's a lot of indie brands that have really grown to be quite significant with their communities, and their communities are so diehard that they're looking for you. They want to find you in person in stores. And then that's the advantage an indie brand has. If you've built that community, is you can help to drive them into your retail partners' brick and mortar locations to help deliver the sales. Our retailers, like, we say this a lot, like, well, we cannot rely on the retailer anymore. They're giving us real estate, and that real estate is so precious. They could give it to another brand. It's so competitive. There's so many brands that spring up. Well, why do we deserve that space, and how do we keep it? Is that they're looking for the incremental consumer, is what we're finding. Is they don't, they already have their consumers that are coming in for the brands and products that are already there. They certainly don't want to cannibalize. Like, any
Right.
brand they bring in, they don't want, the existing consumer to be cannibalized from something else.
Right.
Totally. Like, there's a pie, and they want to grow that pie.
Mm-hmm.
So they want the overall category, whatever category the buyer is managing, of whether it's makeup or skincare or hair, they want that pie to grow. And so as an indie brand, I think, if you have something that's really differentiated and you're speaking to an audience that hopefully that buyer doesn't have, you can bring that into them. And that incremental consumer is, so important to help drive their businesses now.
Yeah, completely agreed. So when you were pitching to Target, what were the things that you wanted to make sure that they knew and understood about the brand? And was there some sort of, as well, conversation around you bringing in a new consumer into the space?
Oh, definitely. I think knowing that we needed to come out of the gate really strong, we didn't have a lot of marketing budget because we didn't even know, like, how much money to carve out for marketing. But we did know that there would be 250 stores, and there's a certain PO and revenue amount you're going to make from that. And okay, so what was really critical for us was how do we want to make our marketing spend in dollars like really efficient? So we went for influencer marketing. And this was, I would say, TikTok was really just kind of, coming out at that time. And we were very fortunate. We looked for, like Target haul, like influencers that do Target hauls, Ulta hauls, Sephora hauls. So we looked for that category of influencer. And there's a lot of influencers that have Target accounts. Like they're focused on Target. What to buy this week at Target, whether it's the latest, beauty item, fashion item, home good item. There's a lot of influencers in this space. And we went for that, and it was great because their followers want to know what to buy at Target. They want to know what's new. Like, It was amazing. Like, that category of audience, they were just hungry to know what was the newest thing. We had probably, 14 content creators that we went out with in that holiday season. Some paid, some unpaid. And we have nail influencers because we're a nail brand. So we have our community of nail influencers that we work with regularly. So we had definitely all the nail people and some of our other influencers, talk about this, but we had the Target influencers as well. And then it was really cool. One of our influencers, one of our nail people, her name is Yodeebs is her handle. She actually created this great piece of content and it started to go viral on her page on TikTok. And then we tagged Target and then they saw it and they're like, hey, can we repost this? So they reposted it and, they had just started their TikTok account. And so it just exploded. It was like 5.4 million views.
Wow.
And it was the biggest post on their TikTok page up to that point, which was like, I talked about that for months. I was like, what sure. Like I would go to conferences. I'm just like telling, I was like, we're the biggest. But it was a really amazing case study for us too, because we could see that like when the content hits, it can really deliver.
Yeah.
So between her video and their video and then subsequent Target influencer videos, we were looking at the comments under the videos and it was like, driving to my Target right now, just been to 3 Targets, didn't see the product. Like, where is this? Oh, I found it. Like, their customers are so engaged. Like, and people do their Target runs like twice a week.
Yeah.
They're doing Target runs. So that was a wonderful learning for us when we launched. And, we have the color, this is our cherry red lamp, and it comes in a kit that's the cherry red color. And, in Q4 and holiday, this was the feature. Like we had other colors, but the cherry red was the one we featured for all the Target influencer drops. So all the creators got this kit. So you got Target red, you got the cherry red. And so the nails, like everything looked very cohesive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you continue to leverage that initial takeoff?
Yeah, I think we really doubled down on the influencer side because for the next 2.5 years, we had this run and it continues to now, but we had this run with doing influencer drops where things would just go very viral and then they would sell out. So we would just see, we have a shade called Smoky Matcha. So it's like a green matcha shade. And it was sort of in this moment where matcha as a color out in fashion and out in home interiors was trending. And we had this shade at Target. So one of the influencers featured it on her nails. She did her manicure in the car. So she was plugged in to the lighter thing. And everyone's like, how do you do this in the car? And it was, just the format was very eye-catching. And, like we say, a thumb stopper, right? When you're scrolling.
Yeah.
So, that kind of just amazing viral content. And we saw the lifts in the sales of Smoky Matcha. Like it would pop into number 1. You look at your top 5 bestsellers for your colors and Smoky Matcha is up there. And it was amazing because, usually the things that were peaking in terms of sales were the full kits, but then you see a single shade just pop up there. And it was the power of, her video was probably 24 million impressions. Just extremely viral. And it was amazing. We've actually built a lot of case studies out of these examples for if I go to a conference or I'm speaking, we talk about this because it was just so interesting how you could link influencer marketing and TikTok to retail sales, and how to help drive that.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, influencers are influencing, right? What they
Hmm.
say and talk about, people hold value, have value in it, and they believe them, and will go out and shop and buy what they say, is important to them or they feel is a good item. So
Yeah.
I love that, and leveraging it, continuing to build up on it as you're seeing that success there. So on the flip side of that, like, how did you manage the inventory? Because it fluctuates so much, to your point
Hmm.
about one color you
Hmm.
may be your number one SKU because you're seeing some great success from a viral standpoint. How did you manage that?
We are still learning how to manage that. It is not easy. It is not because you have your hero bestsellers and those items could go into different retailers. They could sell well, they'll sell well on your website. So those are not the problem. For us, it's all the other colors, right? And nail, like makeup, is very trend led. It's very seasonal, trend led. You're looking at cycles of things that peak. So for the last couple of holiday seasons, the cherry cola nails, like the burgundy wine color cherry cola, has been really trending. And then there was a period like red just went out of fashion. Like red was not popular. And like our
Oh,
red kit
wow.
was just where it was like it was peaking at Target. And then
Yeah.
after a while, it was like not doing as well as the other colors. But then there was a TikTok, like the red nail theory.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I did.
Yeah. And then you have like the one thing that everybody else starts to make videos off of, and suddenly red is back,
Yeah.
and people are buying red. So it's very cyclical. If I'm on like I don't know, Ulta.com versus Ulta shelf. Like Ulta.com, I could list 40 shades and the inventory will be low and we can keep a lot of inventory in our warehouse and when they need stuff, we send it. But then you're in the retail stores in, hundreds of locations, and they have to fill the shelves.
Mm-hmm.
But then what if that color is not popular anymore? Or are you picking the right colors for that next season? And sometimes those decisions are so far in advance. Do
Right.
you know how to forecast the trends for, 6 to 12 months down the line? And then we were producing, like, okay, you put some colors on shelf. Well, you're going to have to produce thousands of units to stock the shelves, then stock the warehouses, and then you have inventory,
Mm-hmm.
just to help. But then at some point, you're like, hey, this is not working. Maybe we should discontinue this color or these 5 colors. And from the brand side, like you're managing a ton of inventory. So it's a continuous learning for us. I think we do have a lot of shades. So we probably have, I don't know, probably over 100 single shades, and we're really trying to figure out how do we manage this. We do like virtual bundles on our site, duos, trios, buy 3, get a 4th free, testing different things to help, get our consumers buying more shades, but
Yeah.
at the same time, moving through inventory.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you manage that when it comes to a store perspective? Because, when you're in stores and you're on shelf, one of the main things is making sure that you always have inventory in order to support,
Hmm.
what's trending and what's working, of course. But to your point, also what's not working. How do those
Hmm.
conversations happen with your buyer? Are you the one that's kind of giving ideas in regards to what should be exited based on performance? Are they providing that information during those, 1 to 2 times a year that you're having those in-depth conversations and sales recaps?
I would say it's pretty collaborative. Like on the Ulta side, our buyer is like deeply knowledgeable about nail and color. And that's really helpful because, we've also worked with other buyers and other retailers who just don't either know the category well or maybe are not passionate about the category. So when you have a buyer who like knows their category and, has an opinion because they're seeing across other brands what's working and not working, that's extremely helpful. So they'll definitely give us their opinions. We have brokers, for a lot of our retailers. The brokers are very helpful because they also manage other brands. They're behind the scenes. Sometimes brokers, in their career have worked at the retailers before, so they come from the inside and they know as well. I would say our team for marketing, social media, and our PR agency as well, and our creative team, we have a number of people on the team that are really good at trend and color forecasting. So really like knowing what's about to pop and jumping onto it. So we're able to kind of keep our marketing really, at the, kind of cutting edge of what the trends are coming so that when we're running, whether it's like organic content or paid ads, trying to just run content and do marketing on stuff that's really trending in the moment because that will halo onto our retailers. So I think that's something we've seen. Like we run paid ads, and paid ads will drive to our website, but paid ads serve a larger purpose of getting consumers seeing you. And then, if they're seeing you in multiple places and then they see you at the retailer, they're making that connection like, hey, I can shop your brand at the retailers. We often will put all year round items into retailers because, those all year round bestsellers should always be doing well and deliver. But in color cosmetics, it's certain colors that will peak. Like over the summer, it was like what, brat summer, like the brat colors. I mean, the brat, like sort of that neon yellow green. And that was for what, 3 months?
A period of time, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like, how do you manage that? But it's been a continuous learning for us, but I would say our buyers tend to be really honest with us, about what's working, not working. But we also monitor our weekly sales, and we're analyzing every week the reports that come through to see, okay, what are the what's peaking, what's doing well. Let's keep pushing those. Maybe we want to run new ads. Maybe we want to do an influencer seeding. Maybe we want to do a focus on that. But then what's not hitting the targets, and why are they not hitting the targets? Can we help to lift them? Ideally we're doing that, before to talk about discontinuing colors. But, how do we make sure we're lifting those up? But at some point you're like, hey, if it's not working, we probably need to discontinue. Like, let's, call it what it is. I would say in the past, I was probably really conservative about discontinuations because from the brand side, we're sitting on so much inventory. You're scared to discontinue something. Like, where else can I move that inventory? But then in recent years, I would say I'm more aggressive about it, not as scared and conservative, more like we have to deliver this retail business. We cannot put slow performers or low performers on that shelf. It is wasting space, we're wasting time, and we need to earn our right to be there. So every item, like if you have 14 items, it has to be very productive. You have to have an assortment where not too many things are similar, like they all need to offer something. Everyone deserves, why do they deserve a space in this assortment? And what are they bringing? So being very thoughtful about, your 10 to 20 items in that assortment, and why this one and why that one and why not that one. And if something's not working, just not waiting too long. And I think our business has been around for long enough, and we're in US, we also have a European business. We actually move inventory between the regions. If something's not working somewhere, we can try to move it elsewhere. And, I think as brands develop, they also, especially if you have a lot of SKUs and you have different retailers, you also can open up other channels like off price, discount, especially in different markets. And that can also help clear some inventory. But there's different ways to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's smart because, I think ideally you want to have as much space as you can have on the shelf to kind of showcase your brand. But, what you're saying, I think is important, where you really still want to maximize the space that you have and make sure that everything that you have on there is profitable. And if that equates to half the shelf, and that's where you're really going to drive the volume, and that's where you kind of need to hone into versus just having additional, product space that maybe isn't driving the volume that's necessary for your brand to succeed, for the retailer to succeed, and really showcase it and bring your brand to the real kind of level that it needs to be from a sales perspective. So when you're kind of saying, when you're having those conversations with your buyer on particularly SKUs that aren't successful, is there also a moment of telling them what SKUs maybe need to be replaced with that? Or, what does that look like?
Yeah, we did an exercise recently for one of our retailers where we have a certain assortment that's only been on shelf for half a year, and we're looking to the next year. And we made some decisions to pull down things that we felt were not working. Like clearly they're not working from the sales reports. And how do we improve that productivity? What are the items that we replace them with? How do we better use the space? So for example, one of the items we had was our maxi set. It's like quite a big set, taking up a big chunk of the shelf. But then when you look at the individual sales of the different items, we're like, okay, this item's quite big. It's taking up like 20% of the shelf. Is it turning? I mean, it does turn, but you can only fit 2 of the items. So then when it's out of stock, is it going to sit out of stock for a long time? Like sometimes the stores don't restock as quickly because they're busy.
Right.
And so we thought, how do we use this particular space better and make it work harder for us, and we decided to put other items on there, smaller items, so we could fit more, have more facing. But this has taken years to learn,
Yeah.
And really, because it's such a science, that the understanding of like the analytics of what's gonna earn and what's gonna attract the consumer. But then you're also really thinking about the trends and all of that. So yeah, it was a very, very interesting exercise recently.
So you said that you were kind of in all of these other countries, and there were some, there were some moments that you were kind of pulled back or discontinued in other retailers across the country.
Mm-hmm.
So could you kind of talk about what were those learnings that you took away and utilized to really perform well when it came to the US market?
Yeah, I would say marketing was really critical, and marketing, especially because we've been in different countries, you can't, like, as an indie brand, do marketing for 5 or 10 countries. Like, at some point you just don't have the resources to do it. And that was something that we've been seeing more recently, because we have our teams, who are managing, Italy and France and Spain, and we did UK quite a lot before Brexit, but then we scaled back after Brexit. And like, the US, like, we have a dedicated team for the US, but we look at some of the other markets and we're like, wow, sometimes our resources are spread pretty thin because we're trying to do a lot of things. And in some of the countries, like when we started out in France, for example, it was our sister team that was managing it, but you would have like one intern on marketing, one person working with the retailers who probably wasn't coming from this retail background or sales background, and a manager overseeing all of it, which is okay in the very beginning. But as the business is developing and you've been in a country for several years, like, you just need more expertise, and you have to step up how you're doing things. So I would say, like, one of the big learnings for us is, how do you get really good at marketing, and what are the things you focus on? And I meet a lot of founders that are starting brands now, like this year or last year, like really new brands. And they're like, what do I do first? I'm like, I'm one person, do I run my paid ads? Do I go film content and be the founder face on TikTok and film content every day and do TikTok lives? Do I, do events? Like, what do I do? Do I go look for retailers? And that's a very intensive strategic work to do. What do I even focus my time on? Do I like program my Shopify, like behind the scenes?
Right,
like, do I go
right.
product
There's so many
development?
things, right?
So many. There's so many. And, I'm very fortunate because we've had a team that's been together for a while. So when we launched in Target, our team had actually already been working together for a couple of years. So they weren't brand new. So we were able to kind of scale. Target was scaling for us, but with a team that knew each other. So they were doing organic, they were doing paid, they were doing influencer, they were doing PR, but there was a cohesion. And then when we had the opportunity to launch in Ulta, so we launched in like 265 stores in the nail section, they already had that Target experience. So it's like, okay, what can we take as our learnings, and also what stuff didn't work, and how do we do the Ulta launch, and what do we go for? And I mean, one of the things we learned was we went for Ulta haul influencers, the way we did the Target haul influencers. But the vibe around Ulta is not the same as Target. I would say Target has much more this, I mean, the Ulta shoppers are very engaged, but it's not the same as, like, I mean, I don't want to call it a cult, but Target has this like energy with their consumers.
Yeah.
And Ulta's just very different. Like, the haul thing, it didn't really work for us in the same way, but other things worked. So there were a lot of these kind of learnings that we had. But I would say marketing is critical, and like trying to figure out, you're not going to be able to do 360 marketing if you are doing it alone or you have like 1 or 2 people on the team. So maybe just picking a couple of things that will move the needle and doing those really, really well. And today, it probably is something like TikTok. If you invest the time and you're out there enough,
Yeah.
and doing regular content. There's a brand called Sugar Dough, who the founder, it's,
Yeah, they were just on Shark
hair
Tank.
removal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Aaliyah, I've spoken with her a couple times. So, like, she just really doubled down on founder content. And she was doing lives all the time on TikTok. And it was great because the community is just so engaged. like they know you.
Yeah, I love that too because I just talking with founders, there's so many things to do. What do you really focus on? What can really move the needle and drive,
Mm-hmm.
the things that are going to get you to the next level? And I agree. I think marketing is key. Just getting your brand out there, awareness out there. But once you're out there, and especially when you're in retailers, how do you manage being able to talk about and grow your brand and awareness, but
Mm-hmm.
also driving traffic to stores? Like what does, percent contribution look like? Does it vary?
Yeah. I would say, with the iOS changes that happened, like the Facebook ads and the Meta ads, they don't deliver the way they used to, they don't work the way they used to. We saw this shift, and we were one of the brands that shifted, is like retail being able, you're not just doing D2C anymore, right? You can't just do D2C anymore. And so a lot of brands really look to retail to get into retail and have retail help deliver volume and dollars.
Yeah.
And, I think that, like today, when I look at the business, retail partners are for us very precious. I think, it doesn't matter where our consumer shops us. Like if she wants to shop on our website and be part of the loyalty program, or if she's running into her Ulta and she wants to pick up a shade and she can get her like Ultimate Rewards points.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they want to build there, or maybe there's like newness, like exclusive newness. So sometimes we have newness that is only on our D2C, or we'll do newness that's on our D2C plus one retailer and giving them something really special. I think, like retail partners, they'll play different roles for a brand, but I think having one or two great partners that can help you build your brand and help give you good credibility and awareness and also sales is very, can game change for the brand.
Yeah. I love that. It's also really interesting because I agree. I feel like just a couple years ago, it was all about D2C with emerging brands. Like
Yeah.
that's where you can get all of your volume. You can pretty much be,
Mm-hmm.
100% successful. But I have seen as well over the course, I would say, of probably the last year and a half that, brands are trying to diversify now and get into brick and
Mm-hmm.
mortar. Probably to what you're saying about, the algorithms and things aren't the same. So how
Mm-hmm.
do you get in front of your consumer in a bigger way? And brick and mortar is like, one of the best ways to do that. So what have you found is the best opportunity that you've seen with having your product in a retail store versus D2C?
I feel like since the pandemic, like now we're a couple years after the pandemic, people are really craving everything in person, whether it's
Mhm.
attending events live, touching and feeling and playing with products. I mean, we're such a digital generation. Like we're all glued to our phones. We're inundated with ads. There's so much digital content vying for our attention.
Yeah.
This getting back to basics of like the physical interaction, I think is so beautiful now, right? I think people just really crave that. So that's something that I feel like I mean, you don't get that. Like if you're D2C and social media and influencer and all that stuff, it's such a different experience to just walk into a store and browse and discover like product discovery and play with testers and talk to a store associate who maybe has used that product and can give you some feedback.
Yeah.
Or doing an event, like we've done events at Ulta stores and just have people test and we teach them how to use the product and like get them educated on how to use our products. It just makes such a difference, and they love that in person, just meeting people from our team. That in person experience
Connection.
is
Yeah.
wonderful. Connection. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So what is next? I know you recently just launched an air dry nail polish line
Hmm.
to the assortment. What made you do that? Was that from customer feedback? Really, where did that originate from? And what does next look like for the brand?
Yeah. We have always been known as a gel brand. And so people come to us for everything, gel manicure related. But when we look at, the nail category and just like growth and where can we, bring our brand, we have a great, I think brand story and, we want to like bring vibrancy and joy to our consumers through self-expression and creativity, right? So that's what we talk about. And if we're only doing it in gel, we can only really talk to people who want to do gel. And when we look at the numbers, there's a whole audience out there who probably just aren't going to do gel. Like they're either not interested in dabbling in it or they don't want to do it themselves. But nail polish is just much larger, right? So, it was kind of this natural evolution for us to have an air dry polish. We launched with probably 28 shades right in September was the first collection. We have more coming. And most of the shades match our gel polish shades. There were two that were new, but everything else we were matching up bestsellers and cool seasonal shades. And the idea was, hey, if you love it in our gel, now it's available in nail polish. And the nail polish that we created has a superfood infused formula. So we've added like blueberries, avocado, spinach, and also biotin to make your nails healthier. So there's a great ingredient story, very fun, vibrant colors. Our bottle design is beautiful. There's a little macaron cap, and our creative director is just brilliant. Like the whole thing looks like a little piece of art. And yeah, it's really quite fun, very eye-catching. I think really speaks to the DNA of Le Mini Macaron, but it's an extension. And we actually were featured in Forbes because I did an interview with them where we spoke about how we wanted to kind of reach Gen Alpha, like this younger generation. So our gel manicure kits, I would say millennials, have been our consumer for the last like 10 years that we've had the brand. And then Gen Z, this kind of like older Gen Z. But with the nail polish, we're really going into like younger Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So you hear about Gen Alpha, like buying, like they're at Sephora, like, running through the stores, buying like Drunk Elephant and these products, Glow Recipe. It's like all these skincare products and they have very young skin, and the brands are saying, hey, maybe you guys should hey, like you shouldn't be using like skincare products at 12.
Right.
Like you just don't need it, right? And so there's this lady, Jody Katz. She has a podcast and she's the head of Base Beauty. She's a strategic beauty advisor. But Jody did this great interview where she's like, and she has a Gen Alpha daughter, and she's like, what's the one category they could be playing in? It's nail polish. Like it's safe for them, right? It's so colorful, and this generation's all about like self-expression and, trying things. So I think there really just represents an opportunity for us to capture them and bring them into our brand and have them grow up with us. So that was really the thinking behind the nail polish. We're really excited to further roll it out. We launched on D2C in September. As we go into 2025, we have more retail opportunities coming. So stay tuned because we definitely are going to be having our nail polish in more places. And I think our gel brand as well, our gel line as well, we have a lot of shades and there's some really fun collaborations coming. So we've got, both sides of it, depending on what you like to paint with.
I love that. That's great. I mean, I think it's so exciting that you're kind of expanding into something new, and I'd love to hear why, because that's so smart in regards to like getting that consumer at the early stages with the polish and then kind of moving into gel as they kind of mature and move into that stage. So that's exciting, and I can't wait to see where that's going to be at as we go into next year and beyond. So can you tell our listeners where they can buy Le Mini Macaron and where they can continue to follow the brand story and your journey?
Yeah. So our website is leminimacaron.com, and you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok. The handle is just Le Mini Macaron. And then we're also available at Ulta, Target, Anthropologie, Nordstrom. We have a variety of retailers.
All the places.
You can find us at. Yes.
That's great. I'll be sure to link all of that too in the show notes so people can definitely go out and support you.
Oh, thank you, Roberta.
Yeah, definitely. I love this conversation. And again, thank you so much for coming on. I think just really great, valuable information for other entrepreneurs to listen to as they're thinking about their retail strategy and or kind of growing what already exists on shelf for them. So I appreciate you and thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me today.